Dionysus.
I can see some connections amongst Yeshua and Dionysius. But to say he was a priest of Dionysius, please, I need a video where you're explaining that. Or at least, please refer me to some texts, some books, so I can glean the knowledge and insight myself. Dionysius is a god of the harvest, the god of wine and ecstasy, of divine frenzy. He's also god of the foreigners. He's not one of the gods from the original Greek pantheon. He was a god who was adopted by the Greeks in their traveling and their conquesting. He was god of the barbarians, and the barbarians were the people eastward of the Greeks. They called them barbarians because whenever they spoke, their language sounded like they were saying bar, 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 bar. Thus the term barbarians. Many of the Greeks didn't like Dionysius. They didn't like the Dionysian mysteries. They didn't like the cult of Dionysius. They felt that they were wild, savages. Many of the Greeks identified with the god Apollo. During this time, there was a dichotomy which existed called the Apollonian-Dionysian dichotomy. Friedrich Nietzsche talks a lot about this. The Apollonians were oriented towards the intellect, the ideal. They believed that a human should govern themselves as such, reason and virtues over the passions. Whereas the Dionysians sought pleasure. They were hedonists. According to descriptions of the rites of the cult of Dionysius, their rites were strange, bizarre. They would take into the woods or into the wilderness, either half-dressed or completely naked, or wearing the skins of dead animals, and engage in drunken frenzy, drunken orgies. It's also said that they would engage in sacrificial blood rites, in which they would sacrifice animals. And the animals which they would sacrifice, they would tear the skins of the animals off of them and wear those skins. And celebrate, dance, have drunken orgies, drunken, bloody orgies. They would fall into a state of frenzy, divine frenzy. They would experience chaos, void. For the Greeks, those who were Apollonian in their thinking, this was a danger to their society. These people were chaos. They were disrupting order, the order within Greece. Many began to join the cult of Dionysius, but most of them were women. Oh, it's also said that they consumed blood, which makes sense, because Dionysius to the Romans is Bacchus. And as far as from what I remember, Bacchus is the first vampire. The Romans completely plagiarized Greek culture. They have the same deities, they just gave them new names. Bacchus, or Dionysius, is a vampire. I see what you were saying all this time. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was younger, there used to be a show I used to watch called Xena, Warrior Princess. It was a dope-ass show. And I remember in an episode, her and her sidekick, Gabrielle, they were fighting Bacchus. And he was a fucking vampire, turning other women into vampires. This shit's deep. Dionysius or Bacchus is the god of wine. Yeshua turned water to wine. I can see the connections. Wine is symbolic of blood. But help me connect the rest of the dots. How is Yeshua a priest of his?